We got to play Planet Coaster 2. Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and content creators all over the world have had a chance now to play a little bit of Planet Coaster 2, about a 2-hour demo session, or maybe less depending on if they were Gamescom. And I got a lot to talk about here today. We really need to talk about Planet Coaster, its future, and the Planet franchise, such as Planet Zoo. So strap in, buckle up. There is certainly a lot to discuss that we haven't seen up until recently, and a lot more things to come, as this game still has a TBD release date, which is totally fine with me. The developers need more time to fix anything or add new features and all this gameplay that they're allowing everyone to see and to experience for themselves. If they have to go back to their workshop and work on some other things, that could definitely be a good sign. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit more on gameplay of Planet Coaster 2 and talk about what everybody's been able to play and when we can expect and what we can expect from a game such as this. A game that is highly anticipated and certainly seems like it could be better than the original? Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it. So let's talk all about Planet Coaster 2. Well, as I've been saying, Planet Coaster 2 does not necessarily have a release date at the moment, although all the promotional materials are stating that it's going to be fall of 2024. Although it would be nice to know by now, because we're quickly approaching October and soon to be November. And with all these big releases coming out for a game like Planet Coaster 2, where you can create so many different things. I mean, seriously, we all know what it's like to build an amusement park if you haven't played Planet Coaster or Roller Coaster Tycoon or any park building game by now. Yeah, it takes a long time to be able to build something of your dreams, especially if you're working on it in small little increments over time. And this certainly will be the type of game where a lot of people will want to put a lot of time into building parks that they're familiar with, and or parks of their dreams, by just goofing around with all the things that are in there to make like a SpongeBob world or Busch Gardens or whatever comes to mind. Right now we're going to watch some of the actual gameplay from the developers from the Frontier Unlocked event, but many of us have already gotten a chance to play, and I can tell you my biggest gripe with this game, or rather the Planet series, including Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo, has been the path building system. And man, it feels so much better now to be able to build a beautiful park by actually building some paths and getting started from pretty much nothing. What everybody's been able to play so far is essentially, and what everybody wants to do, is start from scratch and getting started by laying out your initial park by building some more free-form structures and, free-form pathways that then lead to free-form structures and areas that you can decorate. Feels so much better and less restrictive than what it was like before. The best thing I can equate it to is building paths in Planet Coaster 2 feels a lot more like building roadways in City Skylines 2 or a heavily modded City Skylines 1. Now, criticize that game any way you want. The road system is damn good in City Skylines and just as good in City Skylines 2, especially with mods. But in Planet Coaster 1, trying to lock things to angles and trying to build things around a system that really just, you were always fighting against it. Even in Planet Zoo, trying to build anything underground or through a ravine or whatnot would always destroy the landscape. And here in Planet Coaster 2, to be able to build a large plaza area for a food court, for example, or a large area for a water park is super easy and satisfying. And what we'll see eventually is a feature where, of course, you can make a large plaza and then actually delete space from that plaza too. So you can make like a large circle and then put a open circle in the middle of that for grass or something like that in the shape of a donut, and then fill that with trees and other things like that to kind of create a wonderful little roundabout for people to walk around. And it's easier than ever. One of my biggest problems with Planet Coaster 1 was finding out all the tricks, in order to make things look nice. And of course, creators came up with all sorts of different ways to be able to make those things quick and easy to do, and by saving tons of things to their blueprint mode to be able to paste them elsewhere. And this Planet Coaster 2 seems to be a lot more easy to make those customization things that before had to be modded or put in a lot of work. Now, for this roller coaster here, roller coasters now, we get many new types of coasters, which is great to see. And as we get closer to launch, we'll go over a lot more of those things. But here I want to talk about initial gameplay impressions from me and everyone else who's been able to play it and been able to take a look at this footage and what our thoughts are. And I've got to say, my initial thoughts of Planet Coaster 2 is, well, this could have been a DLC or this could have been an update. And it certainly rings true. It certainly feels like maybe the water parks could have certainly been a massive DLC, but are good enough, I think, to start their own new game to give a spin-off and to make a new game that's based on all the new systems and the operating systems, hardware, and other things like that have come out since Planet Coaster 1. Better consoles, better graphics cards, better CPUs, and so we can have a bigger game that runs a lot more smoothly, and that means more mods and things like that. Now, again, the developers have confirmed that all of the stuff from Planet Coaster 1, your blueprints and coasters that you may have made there, unfortunately will not transfer over. If you got a great wooden coaster that you want to import to Planet Coaster 2, you'll have to unfortunately make it from scratch. But they've certainly made, the Planet Coaster team has made it a lot easier to make those coasters. You know, we get the same data that we've always had of real-time feedback on vertical Gs and horizontal Gs and nausea and fear and other things like that. But then building decorations around them and the things that you really want to do to customize a coaster and make it yours, or take one that already exists and turn it into something else. I mean, you could take a wooden coaster and turn it into a Wild West type ride, and then maybe you could make it something like a Great Wall of China ride or something like that. You can quickly and easily flip things now, and that's something that, of course, we all wanted and expected. But going back to what I mentioned about this possibly being a DLC or an update, it is, well, it looks like Planet Coaster. It's just Planet Coaster, and that's a good thing. It really is a good thing. Going back to games like Roller Coaster Tycoon, when you're playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, it essentially is just Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, but with a lot of great enhancements. In fact, the Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 campaign was very exciting and very fun, but 2 was just better because there was so many lessons learned by the team for Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 that they implemented into 2, and then of course all these other DLCs and things that come out in order to enhance the game, and people realize, well, this is actually really fun, and you know, I'm interested in getting more. And that leads me to wonder what will be a part of Planet Coaster 2. Now, we will talk about all the things that concern me and things that are a little bit more shady in just a little bit, but going back to what I've seen and what I've played myself for, games of Roller Coaster Tycoon, Planet Coaster, and Planet Coaster 2, this is a step in the right direction. For everyone who's played it, the sentiment so far is that it is a lot bigger than the original game. The map is bigger, and the things that you can do to build a park that can be interacted with by people is much bigger. A lot of the times you build just pathways through an area, like a long windy road that eventually comes back to the entrance, and try to litter it with rides. But now, with all of these things like the plazas, again, it's a lot easier to make like a food court that organically blends into a pathway next to some rides, rather than making everything zoned or separated. So the fluidity of people moving through an area is a lot easier, and it kind of looks a little bit more believable, more realistic, and more immersive. Although I do really much, and I don't know about you, but I love the way that people look in Planet Coaster and in Planet Zoo. They always just kind of feel more fun. You get all these different types of people and body types and different clothing and outfit, and honestly, they look very realistic without trying to, they're not too cartoony, they're not too realistic. It's a perfect blend for the Planet series. And if you've ever played games like, for example, Parkitect, you'll know that, those people mimicking more of Roller Coaster Tycoon look cartoony as well. But this totally fits here and is fine. And honestly, we spend a lot of our time zoomed out here. If you've ever played a Jurassic World Evolution or Jurassic World Evolution 2, same devs with the, Frontier working on that one and publishing all that stuff. So that certainly is a great game and really mimics a lot of, I think, Planet Coaster more than Planet Zoo, although the animal type of, taking care of dinosaurs is very much like Planet Zoo. I think the park building and the elements of building like an entrance and something that seems grandiose at the beginning to give you that wow factor seems more Planet Coaster. You're going for more thrills and excitement. As we're in Planet Zoo, you're going for more education and conservation and, the pursuit of knowledge and wonder. Although there could be wow factors of seeing a big elephant or a lion, that type of thing. But what we're seeing now is a lot more customization in this game. And if you haven't been paying attention, this is a great video to watch. If you haven't had the time, that is, to see all the things new for Planet Coaster 2. The rundown is basically that water parks are the major attraction to the new game. They're really trying to make it so that way we can have large pools, wave pools, lazy rivers, and lots of different styles of water slides, as well as some other surprises and secrets coming along too. So in addition to that, there's now a lot more customization for all the thrill rides. And honestly, in the time that everyone got to play, there was not, within the 2-hour play session, not enough time to really do much more than build a pathway, a food court, a coaster, and then a thrill ride and try to customize it. It takes a very long time to play Planet Coaster. And in these whole I got to play series, one of my sentiments for games like Civilization that I've been able to play, and Aura, History Unknown, which are kind of Civ-like games, surprise, surprise. But yeah, in those games, you're building massive civilizations which take long amounts of time to develop, and we got like 2 to 3 hours to be able to play those. Yeah, not enough time in the slightest. And honestly, in a game like Planet Coaster 2, they could have given us 5 hours, and that may as well have been more like 1. If all the content creators were able to get 10 hours at this game, it would be enough to make like a beautiful park entrance and a few rides, but that's not enough to see all the new things that are here and to create things that are going to be in blueprints. Of course, the Planet Coaster series is very good at being able to share things on the workshop, and it brings up some questions about consoles that we'll kind of bring up again later. But with the Steam support, and with such a talented, super talented community making all sorts of different rides and different types of attractions and themed booths and other things like that, being able to customize all sorts of different rides like what we're seeing here, like the twirling drop, or even like a carousel. I mean, imagine how many different ways you could just customize a drop ride where it just lifts you up and drops you down. There's so many different things you could put on there, like the Hollywood Hotel, people trying to recreate that with other ride styles, and even maybe try to bring in coasters to that too. So yeah, there is no question that the amount of customization in this game goes well beyond Planet Coaster 1. And another great thing is, too, that with Planet Coaster, the original game, being around for, what was it, almost, we're approaching, year 7? I think it was 2018. But over all that time, everybody's been able to play through 18, 19, 20, all the way up to 2024 now. Everybody's had about, 5+ years to be able to work on wonderful little theme parks and to learn how the systems in this game work. And so all the systems of XYZ are there in terms of putting down a rock and then being able to rotate it, and then also new functions that kind of come in from Jurassic World Evolution, which is something that the moment I saw it, when the developers get a chance to be able to paint the ground with trees and to have those trees randomized like they do in City Skylines or in Jurassic World Evolution, where I think they were taking that idea from, that is such a sigh of relief, man. I can't tell you how annoying it is to rotate all the trees so they don't look, so they all look different and look nice, but to try to make it look believable. And honestly, with the game now being able to pick random trees throughout parameters that you can select, and then being able to randomly rotate them, and also being able to adjust the size of objects more easily, that's huge. Being able to take a rock and be able to scale it up and down so simply, and then being able to draw trees around that, also have different size trees, really makes things even better. Like, the believability and the immersion is much more. When you look at this game, you think to yourself, well, it's immediately Planet Coaster or Planet Zoo, but it certainly does feel like almost a damn realistic photo. If you were to remove the people perhaps and take a picture and modify it and say, oh yeah, this is Busch Gardens, and make a creation of Busch Gardens, I think people would think it was a real life photo. I'm just saying it has the potential to be photorealistic and is so lovely with the flora and the fauna. Only recently have I discovered how fun it is to be able to put down trees in these types of games and be able to decorate by putting down beautiful scenes like lakes and rivers and shallow streams, and being able to build coasters next to them. And this leads me to believe that we're going to see a much more robust and diverse campaign than ever before. And I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the campaign, because we haven't really been able to see what that's going to be. But I think in these types of games, the campaign serves as an opportunity for everyone to learn and challenge themselves with a budget. And I think that's probably the best way to learn how to play these types of games. If you go into Planet Coaster and you're playing the regular campaign, all of the budget that you have to kind of work through in order to try to create something really makes you think outside of the box. Having everything, at least for me, having a giant box dumped on the floor of all the things we can build with, and doing so unlimitedly, I can't make up a decision. It's almost like a dog chasing tennis balls down a stairs. You know, like if you were to take a giant Rubbermaid thing of tennis balls and drop them down the stairs, that dog's not going to know where to go. But if they come down one at a time, it almost is like a Tetris effect of what do I do first and how can I optimize. And that, I feel, for me, really makes me a much better builder and gets me a little bit more familiar with building things like stations. And this game allows for a lot easier customization of everything, including the cars, and so it makes it more rewarding to be able to take your time to do that, especially in the campaign. Now, I think we're going to be getting a campaign, going back to that campaign centered around more, obviously, water locations. So I believe it's been rumored that we're going to get, the deep sea, so something that's similar to maybe a hint at SpongeBob, but also the Little Mermaid with Ariel. But also some Viking-themed stuff, too. We're going to possibly get colder locations. That's something we've seen before, but a campaign that will bring us through the snow, the tropical areas, obviously pirates, anything that would be on the water we're going to see here. But I hope it's not going to be water all the time for the campaign. And, of course, with all the new things that they're adding for coasters and for plazas, sure, it's cool to build a pool, and the pool is amazing how it's built in this game, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But, being able to build a large plaza and then put rides onto that in a campaign mission is going to save a lot of time and make it look really good as if we spent a lot of time doing it, and I think that's really important. The path building, with it being so good, means that before in Planet Coaster, I was not able to see all the campaign missions because I was spending so much time actually, building, like trying to make paths and make them look nice and struggle against that and fight the terrain. And I wasn't able to build what I wanted some of the times because it's like trying to make a pathway that winds around a ride that's round. I know. I have a personal vendetta for the path making in Planet Coaster. Seriously, I bring it up all the time on the channel. Many of you who watch all the time know that that's probably my Elden Ring final boss. But hopefully now, and I know this is a stretch, but a better path system will mean that we have more time to build rides and to enjoy the campaign and have that challenge. So rather than fighting against space and fighting against, like the terrain itself and things looking nice, it'll be about budgets and about creativity. And that, to me, is much more important. And I really hope to see something like that further in the game in its development, and more things beyond the campaign mode. Of course, we'll get a sandbox mode, and this is rumored to have multiplayer too. Hold on a second. Whoa. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But the the pathways look so good. We can, of course, paint things now with multiple colors, so you can have pathways kind of go over each other, and they really look like diverse and creative pathways that allows for more than just, I'll take the cobblestone or the brick or the asphalt. But now we can kind of blend that all together and paint things. And so, yeah, going back to the pathing system, it is probably my favorite. I know, it's ridiculous. We get all these new things, and I'm stuck on the path building. But honestly, if we get a Planet Zoo 2, I want it to have the Planet Coaster 2 building system because it's outstanding. It's outstanding. Now, building paths in Planet Coaster 2, as we've seen and have done a little bit before, it's good. It is good, and it's probably the thing that held up the most people in actually playing the Planet Coaster 2 demo at Gamescom. I had a few friends that I was chatting with about the Gamescom demo, and people who wrote about that, and we were talking all about that. And aside from the other things that we're kind of supposed to be paying attention to, like the whole, hey, we're building water parks and stuff now and adding more water rides and pools. Again, going back to the pathways, that is the thing that a ton of people are excited about, and I'm happy I wasn't alone in that. And the second thing then is, of course, those actual beautiful pools and how we can make plazas to basically make large public areas that link them into the rest of the park. And speaking of those pools now, too, pools are now kind of their own separate area to the park. A guest can, buy entry to the park in order to go on all your rides and coasters and buy products and other food and whatnot. But then if they're going to go swimming, then they can go to a area to buy tickets to the pool, and then go change and then swim around and go down some lazy rivers, and then maybe a water slide or two. And it looks good, but I feel like not the coasters, but the water park itself is very straightforward, although all the water slides look great and feel really good to build. It's along the lines of building, it's almost like a speed run. for building a coaster. Because with a coaster, you have your platform, the ride itself, and then people return to that platform in order to offload. But when it comes to a water slide, of course, you're going up one side of that water slide and then waiting at the top and then coming back down into a pool. So there's really it's very unique. There's only an entrance to it, right? People are only going up the stairs to the top, and then when they go down the ride itself, the ride is the water slide, and then the exit is into the pool. And so when you build a pool, people will actually be getting out of that pool when they're tired or hungry or whatnot, and then they'll go and get food nearby or leave or whatever. So it's a very cool way to have a high throughput ride, which could make a lot of money, and we could talk tactics for that all day. But there is a little bit of customization here on the coaster, which is great. You can, of course, do this on the water rides too, some of the large tubes and other things like that. Pretty much everything, all the cars in the game can be customized. Roller coaster cars, or the seats for thrill rides, or sometimes if they have cars too, which is really good. So, at first glance, I know I say it all the time. I try to look on the positive. I think that's a good thing. It is great that we're getting another Planet Coaster. It was probably something that was going to happen no matter what. And it is great to see them doing this so late into the game's development, the earlier game, and also showcasing what seems to be a well put together game that I think is really pulling a lot from the original, which is why it looks so familiar and feels so familiar. We have all these systems of pretty much everything looking the same in terms of the menus and the UI and the sounds, very, very much the same. But I don't think there was any reason why this needed to change just to say that we changed it. It would have been more of a Microsoft. Look, I don't know about you guys, but I can't tell you how annoying it is for Apple and Microsoft to change some of the most basic things on their systems, really. Like Microsoft, the search doesn't work anymore. Everything's bloated. You have a file on your desktop called just File 1, and you type in File 1 on search, and it tries to go and download something from online. It's unnecessary and bloated. And so in Planet Coaster, if they would have changed where everything was, like the speed controls from the left to the right, and made the UI red instead of blue, and did all these things that were really just, graphic design guy gone wild and rogue, that wouldn't have been necessary. This is totally fine. Like, to keep it this way and to take some of the things that worked in Planet Zoo and also Jurassic World Evolution 1 and 2 and bring it into this game, I think that was the right move, because each of these games are all made by Frontier and their systems, and there's no doubt that some people who worked on one game are working on another, or advising other people, or they're just outright taking ideas and just doing what I just said, which is, oh, hey, let's do this option, but let's just change the color of the button, that kind of thing. That actually does exist, but it's not a complete ground up recreation of everything, so I think that's fine. But good times. So it is time that we start talking about some of the shady things that we've seen in this game so far. Talking to other people who've played it, the demo that is for at Gamescom and some other recent events and things like that. There's some worry. There always is worry in these types of games. We want them to be good. We want them to be worth our money. And we don't want to get 5 day one DLCs and other things like that with ultra premium deluxe editions and other things where, pay us $120 and we'll let you play 4 days early. Oh, you want the poor edition for $80? Oh, well, back of the line, pal, you'll have to wait. Which I feel like is probably one of the most disrespectful things that, and there are many, but that a game company can do to its fans is, well, if you're not going to pay us more, you're going to wait, pal. Back of the line, not interested in you. Get to the back. It's like such a weird attitude to have. But let's talk more about Planet Coaster and some of the things that might not be so good, or might have some of us honestly a little worried. Now on to some things that I think might get the Planet Coaster 2 folks in a little bit of hot water. You see what I did there? Water? Yeah. Anyway, this has nothing to do with water, but it does have something to do with multiplayer, co-op. Whatever you want to call it, this game is rumored or, well, confirmed, or to say that it has multiplayer on their Steam store page. And through a lot of the developer discussions and some of their presentations, they've said that it has multiplayer, air quotations, or asterisks, asterisks, asterisks. Now, the problem with this is possibly on Steam, where there is, of course, remote play multiplayer on Steam. There's couch co-op, And then there's traditional like multiplayer as well, where you and other friends should be able to play at the same time. And this game is unfortunately not that. Now, I think that they're kind of using some language here that is a little disingenuous or possibly misleading, because if you think about it, the way that they're using their way to say that this is multiplayer is by saying that there's a kind of a hot seat mode where you can build a park or a water park or a roller coaster or something like that, and then save that file, send it over to a friend, and then they can play it as well. I've forgotten what they call it, but it's basically like inline mode, where it's like 1, 2, 3. People get to play it kind of in succession or whatnot. Like person 1 can then pass it to person 2 and then person 3. And if that's the case, then every game is multiplayer, including solitaire, because if you were playing solitaire at home on your computer and then somebody came over and took the mouse and made the next move, and then you just went back and forth, well, then that's multiplayer as well. So this does not have the multiplayer that I was expecting or hoping for, and many people, I think, believe is the actual definition of multiplayer, where you and a friend or many friends can play at the same time. And like, for example, in another game this already exists, in Parkitect, you can already play with friends where you can all build a park in real time together. You can see each other's mouse essentially and be able to build in real time, where somebody could build a path. Immediately you could build onto that path with things like trash cans and lights and benches, and then go on to build like a food court or something all together, or build in separate corners. It doesn't matter. That is a true multiplayer game. But here they're saying it's multiplayer through a mode where you can basically work on a park for an hour and then send it to a friend. And seriously, having it like, that's almost like mailing it, like mailing chess moves to each other. In 2024, soon to be 2025, we're talking about taking a game where you can do a bunch of work on it, send it to a friend, but then you won't be able to work on it because the changes that you make when they send it back to you won't be saved on your end. It'll just be the things that they've saved. And so you're going to have this kind of like tennis mode where they hit it back and forth between each other, and that's about it. So that's really just disappointing that it's not actual multiplayer, but that's fine. But they're really trying to like make it multiplayer by using those semantics, and that's kind of on Steam, because Steam doesn't really have a term for that. They're pretty clear about that. If you go on their Steam store page and scroll down, it'll actually tell you a little bit more about what they mean by multiplayer. And, it's, again, like a hot seat mode where you can send each other a file and play it one at a time, but that's about it. And I was really excited when I heard about multiplayer. First, all these names went through my mind of people you watch all the time on YouTube who make these types of things, and people who don't even necessarily play Planet Coaster often. Maybe some of the City Skylines creators who might want to give Planet Coaster a try. And, of course, going back to what I keep saying about those pathways, it would be cool to see. But unfortunately, we won't get that. We won't get like $2.20 working with somebody else in real time on building a cool park, or Delay Designer and her wonderful team of people that she plays Planet Zoo with, making a wonderful park in Planet Coaster. But that's something that they've been doing, at least in Planet Zoo, is sharing files back and forth, and each working on different parts of zoos and different enclosures and such. And that could be something that players could do in this game, where a family could be working together. Mom, dad, sister, brother could all be sharing a file back and forth. Somebody works on the maybe the park entrance, somebody works on the food court, and other people work on the water park. That's cool and all, but that's going to take literal weeks to do. So that's something that I think they might get into a little bit of hot water for. I'm trying to sound the alarm on this one to everybody, not because I think they're trying to sneak one by. I think they've done a good job, at least, of saying, hey, heads up, this version of multiplayer is a little different. But I think you know how the gaming community is. They're totally understanding and well researched in all the things before bitching in a YouTube comment. Of course, no. Yeah, people are going to find out that, this, I thought it was going to have multiplayer. They lied, They're not necessarily lying, but they also can't not say it's not multiplayer, because they're trying to make it a more intricate part of the game, where I think it's going to literally be just when you log in, it'll say like new game, continue, load, settings, and then maybe this mode where you'll be able to ping it back and forth through the game rather than sharing files through a Discord or via email. So it won't be necessarily the Steam Workshop, but I think consoles will be maybe built into this as well, where somebody will be able to build on their console and then be able to send it back to somebody on a PC. So that's pretty cool. I mean, there's at least that, some crossplay action in advance, which looks really good. But yeah, I think that's maybe the biggest thing that I've seen that's a little questionable, aside from the future of this game, as how many DLCs are we going to get after launch, and what types of things would possibly be cut out or left out on purpose just to make it a DLC. And off the top of my mind, I really can't think of anything other than different coaster types and different thrill rides and maybe different things for the water park that could be added later. For example, with Planet Coaster, the original, they did add more licensed things to the game later on, like Ghostbusters, and then other things like earlier amusement rides that were more classic, like more carnival type rides or things that you would have found in the early 1900s or late 1800s. And that's cool to me. I mean, I'm totally fine with having a la carte rides being added to the game. But one thing I really like that they did in Planet Zoo was adding missions to some of the DLCs too, that would add a few new animals but also a new zoo to build in. And so I hope with Planet Zoo we get maybe with Planet Coaster 2, I hope we get the Planet Zoo treatment with having, whenever we get new coasters and stuff, maybe a new campaign added onto that, and maybe new biomes that we haven't seen before, new flora and fauna that we can plop in there, which would be really cool. And in addition to that, we also have another game that was announced recently called 2 Point Museum, I think it is, right? The folks who made 2 Point Hospital then went on to make 2 Point Campus, which was about, university students, and now they're doing a museum, and that makes me think so heavily of aquariums and whatnot, and that could be the thing that we see in Planet Zoo 2. And so to see that in Planet Coaster would be amazing as well. To be able to make pools full of fish and things just for decorations would be very neat, and then maybe some light educational stuff. But I think they're trying to put a very hard line between Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster, so that way these two series are one about entertaining park guests by having rides and attractions for them to be able to interact with by literally being on the ride themselves, and Planet Zoo is more about walking around and learning and immersing yourself that way. But I think that if we get a Planet Zoo 2, it'll go the Planet Coaster 2 route of having it have that whole the parallel mode or whatnot, or asymmetrical multiplayer, or however the hell you want to call it. I don't know what a good buzzword would be for it to get people to remember it. I'm sure there already is a term around there. And if you watch this far into the video, make sure you comment down below on your thoughts on that multiplayer, and if it's a deal breaker for you, or if they're trying to be intentionally misleading. I don't think they are, because they're trying to make it abundantly clear in the in the interviews that they've had, and also on their Steam store page. So at least there's that. I think that at least they're trying to try to add something that's multiplayer without adding full multiplayer, and that's something that's going to be I think it's going to be a little bumpy at the start, but I think people will accept that. So cool stuff indeed. Now, if you're a fanatic of Planet Coaster 2 and you've been watching all the videos on this channel and many others, a lot of this is already territory that we've covered before in previous developer events. And since, again, we don't have a actual release date here, but since people are playing the demos, and I think that's mostly because of Gamescom, I think at least we're within a 6-month window for Planet Coaster 2 being released. Now, we could get in maybe 3 months that black background, white text, "We heard you" type thing, where the corporation will say, "We heard you. Planet Coaster 2 is a cherished thing that we love, and we don't think it's yet ready for the public audience, so we have decided to," and then they'll talk about releasing it later on and giving the dev team more time to cook and make something amazing. I'm totally down with that. I want to see more of that in the gaming industry. I want to see more developers being allowed by publishers to take extra time and for fans to give feedback. A great example of this is Frostpunk 2. Now, I also this year was able to play Frostpunk 2 and was able to go to 11-Bit Studio event in Poland, where I physically went there and tried out that demo for a while. Actually, that was after the beta. They released a beta, and then they released kind of a demo version for creators and press to try, which was built off all the feedback from the beta, and we gave them even more feedback, and then they decided, now I don't know if it was because of us, but I think it was really a community as a whole made convincing arguments to the company as a whole, speaking with everybody who was there, from accounting to game devs to, I don't know, the receptionist probably was even there. Maybe not, I don't know. But honestly, bringing everybody in from the team to hear community feedback of people who are going to buy and play the hell out of Frostpunk 2 made them go, hey, we're going to make a great game, but it's not quite there yet. We want to make a stellar, beyond stellar game. So we're going to take a little bit extra time and make it amazing. And they changed the UI and they did things that players really were expecting. And again, going back to what I said about Microsoft and Apple making changes to things for a game like Frostpunk 2, it works. They didn't change too much. It was some subtle color changes, but not really a major thing that didn't have to happen. As we're in Planet Coaster 2, things are kind of where they need to be. I mean, literally, the buttons for coasters and flat rides and tracked rides are all the same. The scenery button is literally the same icon. The colors are the same. Things are in the same font. They're in the same places, and it looks so good. I mean, it didn't need to change. So I think that was at least something good that they did. Yeah. So of all the time that I played, the only other gripe that I've heard from people is I bring up the multiplayer thing, and they keep saying, oh, that'll be a little rocky road. It'll be a little rocky, a little bumpy. Till the news is out there about multiplayer and everybody's clear on that. Other than that, the only other thing that I've experienced from talking with everyone else and seeing in these videos and trying with other games is that I think the biggest drawback is still paths. I know I'll never be happy on this path thing, but honestly, some of the paths are a little still difficult to deal with. It is much closer to City Skylines road building than I was expecting, and I wanted to go even closer to that. Other than that, I mean, it's just going to take time to get used to, really. It's a thing that's a non-complaint, because I know it's going to get better in the future, either by some hot fixes, some patches, some updates, or literally just playing the game. So that's going to be cool. I know. I'm very excited for what we're going to get with the 1.0 release, and then what will come down the road a year later of updates and community feedback and fixes that way. Again, I think this team is very open to feedback, everybody getting some surveys on what they thought and actually talking with people like at Gamescom, giving actual feedback. And that's all I've seen in these in-person events is people will literally be like, okay, look, I'm the director. I'm like the director, the game director, or whatever title. Tell me about what your thoughts are. And people will write this stuff down and put it into a spreadsheet later and then give all sorts of feedback to their teams and be like, look, we need more time on these things. And that's great, because games just take so long to make now, and their budgets are so huge, and that's what we want. We want games to come out very, very slowly over time, especially in a creative game, because, of course, it takes you so long to be able to get the most out of it. And this game, I don't know what the pricing will be. I'm guessing somewhere between $59 to $69, with, of course, having a probably $89 version for some sort of deluxe thing and or included season passes, which will give you like the first year of DLCs for free. And I haven't seen anything on that. I have asked around on what DLCs we might see, and a lot of people are just saying, oh, it's probably going to be more like scenery type things, more locations to build in with a coaster or two tossed in that will have the theming for that area. So I don't think we're looking at anything that's major in terms of the DLCs at the start, at least, but hopefully it has a very smooth launch and we don't get something along the lines of, well, City Skylines, where everybody was certainly having some hardware issues and the economy didn't work. I don't think that's going to be a problem here. Again, the 2 hours that everyone had to try Planet Coaster 2 was not enough to really see how the money was going to flow. But I think it is very much like Planet Coaster, where throughput is important on coasters. Of course, now we can switch on coasters, if you didn't know that. Yeah, very cool. We can now actually have like switches for coasters, and you could always use the tactic of having a braking section, block section, in order to bring in more rides that way. So, or riders by having them on multiple carts. But the game looks incredible. It certainly looks more detailed than before. It looks like an HD Planet Coaster 1 with water parks and more customization to the scenery and a whole new campaign and quote-unquote multiplayer. So I think at least we're getting that, and that is good. That is good. But let's talk more about Planet Coaster 2. Are you ready? Me too. So now on to the best part of Roller Coaster Tycoon 8. No, it's Planet Coaster 2. Yeah. So let's talk all about the gameplay now and focus solely on what the developers are going to be showcasing here. And we're going to follow along as they are doing a great job of showcasing the major features, like pointing all the things out, spotlighting everything that's going to make Planet Coaster 2 wonderful. A deep dive, as they call it. Boundless creativity. Oh, really? Well, we immediately start with a border, right? Like, you're limited to a certain amount of space, but yeah, looks great. I love all the new assets. There are new like kites or balloons and things you could put up in the sky. That could have been an update in Planet Coaster 1, whatever. But I'm excited about 2 regardless. And I'm also very excited to see all the customized, like, prefab buildings in the game that the developers will come up with, and then spark my creativity to make my own. But we have something that immediately, like right off the bat, right now, reminds me of Planet Zoo. Like, whenever you start a new area in Planet Zoo, this would be perfect for, like, African elephants or something like that. Like, seriously. They did a good job of learning all the lessons from Planet Coaster into Planet Zoo, changing that out a little bit based on all the different biomes or environments that animals live in, and hopefully are bringing that to this game. But it just makes the scene a lot more believable. And one of the things that's going to be unbelievable is that pathing system. I can't wait for them to do it. Trying out the pathing system too, by the way, everybody tried to break it. Everyone I was talking to did try to at least make like a roundabout and try to make a large square to see how big you could make a square. And it seems like you're unlimited. The only thing limited is the budget if you're playing on like the campaign mode. I would imagine that money is important, I guess, sometimes. So yeah, the system works very well for building paths. I almost don't want to talk about this because I feel like I gave it so much praise, but it is one of the best things about this game and something that was my biggest gripe. I really thought they would have that fixed in Planet Zoo. Seriously, I thought they would have learned their lesson, but no, they didn't. But now they're doing it in Planet Coaster 2, so that's cool. So anyway, you've got the options that you would expect to be able to make a grid square patterns for your plazas. You can also, of course, make like a kind of a line style that creates like a curve, or it almost feels like, you know, CS2 with the nodes and making multiple node points to kind of create like an S curve that curves the way you want it to. And in this game, I expect that the maps will probably give us a lot of large open area that's already flattened, so that way you can just plop a pool down very quickly. But there always is the tools of the, you know, the bulldozer, like the flattening and the area, the ability to smooth areas, and even I think the pools might actually flatten the area around them, like in City Skylines when you make the airports in the airport DLC, it kind of automatically removes trees and flattens the ground, which is cool. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what more I could build with this. There is a lot of options. Even the options from Planet Coaster 1 were good, but the like the ability to make different types of lengths, the tools are there to restrict you, but the tools can also be turned off. The leash can come off. Tiger can get out of its cage when it comes to the path building here, so that's good. Certainly something I want to see more of, and try out a little bit more too, and have different types of paths. I don't know what else I want, but I want something else. I don't know. I want there to be more things to do, like maybe making it so we can build multi-story buildings inside more easily, so that way we don't have to like you know, hit a button to remove roofs or something like that in order to see inside. I want to make a very complicated and cramped like train station for all my little visitors to come to. Now they're about to showcase the thing I mentioned before with the donut. In this case, we're putting down a what is this, a octagon, and oh, that looks so nice. So they're going to put a donut hole in the middle of that, and then that's going to be an area where you can put down a information kiosk or some benches around that type of thing. So that's probably one of the best tools in the game in the building mode for roads, the pathing system. Being able to just plop down a plaza and then being able to cut out a piece in the middle of it is good. But the only thing missing from that, honestly, is the ability to make sure it's absolutely centered. It would be nice if we could hit control and hover over the center of one of these things and actually like make it cut out a donut hole right in the center and not just be off to the side or something like that. Like you're not going to be able to make it perfect unless you really spend your time doing that, or there's going to be some sort of a system that everyone will come up with. Like, remember again, I know I'm going to mention it again, but City Skylines, in City Skylines 1, you would make like a circle with like a cross through it, like an X, and that would help to keep the roundabout together as you were trying to build onto the roundabout. Yeah, this is kind of like the same concept, really. So, good stuff. And we can also freely make paths, too, so yet another good thing. So, wow, birds flying around with, like, artifacting or ghosting going on. Weird. Oh, the devs are going to do it. They're just going to plop it down. No. Everybody had to do this, though, in the demo. I mean, like, you had to give it a try, and it wasn't going to be perfect, so... but you did try. I guess the best thing you could do to hide something like that, if there's not a tool to make it perfect, would be to make it rounded. So instead of having jagged edges that you can kind of like line up to the edges of other edges, you just make a circle, and nobody can really tell once you've started to put buildings around it and trees or something in the middle. So there are ways to hide that. The standard tools of making a pathway wide and narrow are here too. So there is definitely the ability to make a pathway that's kind of just meant to be a queue, or you could make a narrow exit too. I mean, not a lot of people will be coming through an exit after a ride's done. They'll come in bursts. So if you're having an exit that's a little far away from a path, you can, of course, widen that up as time goes on, or something like that as you get closer to the main path. Oh man, the path building looks good. So the developers here talk a lot about the path building as one of their major milestones in the game, and also another milestone being the creativity of the customization of the shops now, or like the rides, I should say, that you can make them as detailed as you would the shops, and being able to put lights on them and volleyballs and such. Another thing is going back to what I was mentioning earlier about adding new coasters. That's another big thing. And then, of course, I heard a rumor. I'm not sure. They're adding water to the game. Pools and water parks, I guess. Yeah, that's cool. And there's lots of things within that. So we're about to see a water park be plopped down, too, where we're going to get a pool, and then we're going to get a bunch of slides or something onto that pool, and or into the pool, and that's cool, too. And I would like to see maybe a lazy river go into a large pool or something like that, where the guests can then get off if they want to or keep going through. I'm going to have to see what the limitations are here, but I feel like that lazy river is going to be something that's going to be isolated. It doesn't necessarily go into like a large lake, but yeah. So they're still toying around with the path building. They're still trying to build a, I think they're going to build a pool here that's going to segue from the pathway or the plaza into a pool. And that's going to be really neat to see how people make almost stadium-like transitions to sidewalks or a road to like a large event area. And that's what the pools feel like too. They feel like a big separate secret VIP parties going on in there. And, building pools in different shapes and sizes is cool. And there's going to be like optimization for it too. So there's going to be a way where you're going to make a pool that's not too big, because people are not going to be able to really get to like the middle of the pool. Like everybody's just going to be hanging around the outside, and having a too large of a pool means more money. Something I forgot to mention too is that pools, just like in Plaza Zoo, need to be filtered. Yeah, you're going to need to be able to provide filtration to your pools. And I'm not sure about power. I think power might still work like it did in Planet Coaster 1. Planet Zoo, of course, is the one that requires water filters and like windmills or solar panels to keep everything powered up. To which I think, when you're building a zoo or when you're building an amusement park, that's probably going to be connected to power. I mean, I'm not an expert, and it's cool to be able to lower your costs maybe by having a solar panel, but yeah, it's going to be a different story here. And there goes their first shop, which, by the way, could be built onto the path a little bit with no hassle. Oh, I totally love that. The hassle-less, like, shop building is so nice. I love it. I hope we get a lot more foods in this game, too, in different stall types. I hope we get to go to locations we haven't seen before, and then get new food that we haven't seen before as well, and then theming items for those locations, and that'll be good. But Gulpy is back, and Chief Beef is back, and all your favorites are here, as well as the changing room, which is new and related to the pool. And then, of course, I wonder if I think you might be able to charge for the changing room. I'm not sure, but... Oh, there they go. But yeah, it certainly seems possible to be able to charge for the bathrooms and the changing rooms. And of course, I guess you could weave some of that into the park admission and also into the pool admission too when you go to your wacky water area or something like that. That'll be cool. The cool pool will be cool. Finally, we're moving on to water slides now. And this is something a few of us tried out quickly and immediately understood. And it's like, okay, got it. Cool. Moving on. The only thing you can really do with a water slide is, of course, build it into a pool. And, you have it drop into the pool, and the guests can go and swim around and then walk out of the pool or whatever. Very straightforward and very easy to be able to make a very cool water slide. I mean, these are probably, of all the rides I've ever seen in Planet Coaster, this right here. This is big. This is an easy one. Again, you build a stairwell up to a platform. That's your queue. And then people basically go down one by one into the pool. And, there's a lot of G's involved in that. There's some clear sections too, and then of course you can build your you could do dueling slides or have multiple rides at the top. So everybody can wait in one queue, but you could have 2 or 3 or 4 slides going off to different parts of the pool. So kind of cool that you can almost have like dueling water slides and have people just kind of race to the end. And it's all possible with one platform. And because these are so easy to make, you make your drop, then you put in some curves, then you maybe make some blackout sections where they can't see, and then maybe do some mirror or glass sections so they can see. After all that, they're pretty excited. So definitely good stuff here. And they're making a clear tube. Oh boy. A lot of this stuff I think actually raises fear and excitement. Might be, I think they're tied together. Excitement equals fear a little bit, and fear equals excitement. So you got some good middle ground to work for. But very nice indeed. And a good color palette too. You could actually make a color palette. You know, they chose multiple colors, and every time that you click, it will stick to those colors too. So no need to go back and painlessly paint everything. Again, going back to what I've said about the systems in this game, they really put a good thought into making some things easier so you don't have to go back and do them endlessly and tediously, and go back and like plant each individual tree or each individual coaster support has to be painted or something like that. You could always do that at the beginning, but it's great to see in Planet Coaster 2. It really is. So I'm excited to see that. And the water slide building, that is nice. I mean, it's just really cool to see. I thought we would, in the future, when we're talking about Planet Coaster 1, I was thinking in Planet Coaster 2, we would definitely get water parks, and that we would get some water slides that would be like maybe in a tube, and maybe that would be about it. And now we're getting lazy rivers and people like going in a water slide just kind of on their own, like with just a swimsuit on. So that'll be funny, especially if somebody loses their pants. If someone comes down fast enough in that tunnel or whatnot, down a big old water slide, it'd be funny if a lifeguard has to come over or something and save their dignity. I don't know. Be a funny thing, but I don't think we would see that too often or at all. In fact, I never even know when people like get sick enough to go to the first aid thing. I usually never make rides that are that bad, and if I ever see a lot of vomit around somewhere, I'll just usually hire some more staff, to which lifeguards is a new member of your staff too. So keep in mind that they'll be working in these areas, and they'll be working as almost like ride operators for the water slides and flumes and things like that. Actually, probably not the flumes, but if somebody's going down in just a swimsuit, that's when you'd involve a lifeguard. And that's somebody who will be watching for, all sorts of problems. In this park, it's probably just going to be people drowning, but I don't know if they can die or not, but that seems like a pretty big risk. For someone to die in your park after you built a big old pool, it's going to be a bad time. You're going to want news not to get out about that one. So free rides for life, everybody. Free rides for life. All right. So it looks like we've moved on now to basically taking a look at the finished product, and that looks good. That's a pretty damn good ride for sure. And I like how the queue is kind of its own thing. It's reimagined by the developers, making things a little different than what we've seen before. And I hope to see this kind of innovation for future rides. It's one of the most ambitious that I've seen, as where everything else is kind of just a I don't know. When you click on it, it's just got a description. It's hard to tell what it is or how it works. And with water slides, I think it's pretty straightforward. And, you get your swimsuit, you go on the ride, you come down, and you drop into a pool, and somebody comes down seconds later. A good throughput, and a way to make a lot of money. Good stuff. All right. So the developers are painting now. Oh, making things look pretty. Ooh. Making it red and blue. And now just red. Now, I've seen red, green, blue before in some of the promotional art for the game. That seems to look really well. They look really good. Still paused here, I think, from the developers. And now they're sending in the folks. Oh, boy. Now, that pool's got some jagged edges. I don't know how I feel about that. Also would love to make a hotel over a pool. And, to be able to have like an onsen or something, like you'd have a Japanese hotel, and then you'd have a traditional onsen nearby, and then people could like, use that as a theme or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. And then use hot baths as like a draw. But instead of it being hot baths, it's just a pool. And so you'd have your hotel that's kind of an onsen with the pool below, where people could swim outside the building from there. I'm seeing a lot of creativity for pools, by the way. I've seen people trying to make like infinity pools and try to take pictures of them, and also trying to make like the large areas for like hotels to have their own separate pool just for decoration, but they don't work. I think we saw that in Jurassic World Evolution, where people have made pools that go onto the hotel there. Or at least there's a hotel pool onto the hotel, but nobody really uses it, and it doesn't really raise happiness or anything like that. So that's something that would be cool here too, is for pools to be some sort of a decorative bonus if they're not added yet. If they're inactive in terms of like not producing anything, I don't know. We'll have to see. There's a lot of questions I have about these things, and I would like to, just try it more. I think I want to play some more Planet Coaster 2. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, everybody. That's it. That's all I'm saying. All right, so the water slide looks good. Now they're building a second water slide onto this original one. I think it looks great, the first one. But it's cool that the one queue can lead to many different pathways. So if you've got a huge queue for a ride like this, instead of having to like shut the ride down and add cars to it like you would with a coaster, or like with a flat ride, maybe make the queue a little longer, or just pricing. Instead of that, you kind of just increase spending and help for more people to get through on the wonderful little rides and slides that you're building, you know what I mean? And then again, going back to what I mentioned, you can make all those slides enclosed and, out of glass. And I think that's a good opportunity to be able to see a hell of a lot more from this game, and see more customization for tracks. For coasters, now here we have what they call, I forget, the spiral, the drain, I forget what they call this thing, the vortex. I forget the actual name of this damn thing, but it's pretty cool. The spigot, the spout, they turn it all about. I don't know. Anyway, this is a really cool thing, and there you go. Cool. Gonna spiral everybody down like you would a coin at the museum when you put a quarter in and you watch it go down that large little gravity thing. Very reminiscent of that. Looking good though. Looking good. But you know what? I just had a thought too. When it comes to all of these water slides and rides that we've seen before, of course, we're talking about the new water slides and all the classic rides like the wooden coasters, steel coasters, etc. I hope we get a lot more of those like prefab special parts, like the one at the end here, the vortex or whatever you call it. I know it's got a funny name. I can't wait for people to tell me down below in the comments section. But I'm really hoping for a lot more added to what we already have too. I don't want it to feel like a Planet Coaster 1 Plus game where it feels like a brand new game, but more of a DLC. So I hope that everything has like extra stuff to it. Like, for example, the shops. When you go to the shops and you, I think you can actually customize them to tell them how much ketchup to put on something, or if you get, isn't there something like that? Like where you can set the price of a burger and like see the price of each of the ingredients and then add things like an extra patty or whatever. I'm hoping for that level of customization too, where it's more back-end. Like you may never see it, but you know that it might be making you more money. And if you're going to be able to modify everything from the price of a burger and see the price of the individual ingredients too, let's not forget about the staff rooms too and taking care of staff. Hopefully there are new options for taking care of all the needs of the staff and to enhance them, like for example giving them better training, or there's other rooms like things to help them recover faster from being tired. There's things like the recreation room and the social room and other things that allow them to be a little bit more effective or recover faster or upgrade for a cheaper price, whatever it is. I can't remember them all, but it is complex, and I hope to see that level of complexity in everything. Now here, they're going to build a little bit of a kind of an attraction, like an automated thing, a robotic thing, and that's really neat too. We did see a lot of that in the original Planet Coaster, where you could have a coaster zip by maybe like a mountainside and then have it shoot fireworks on a timer. But now even more so, you can have those things active all the time, either in like a public space, or you can have your traditional dueling coasters and then have something along the same lines happen for them too. So even more ways to control. In fact, they may have shown it I don't know if they'll show it here, but I have seen footage of the timer for that kind of thing. And it actually might be here in this segment where you can actually control what happens with the things around. It's more like if you've ever edited a video before, it's very easy clicking and dragging the time stamps into position. Like this animation lasts 5 seconds, this one lasts 4, or this effect lasts 2, and then you can mix that all together. Similar to what you would do with the fireworks shows, I think, in Parkitect, and I forget exactly how they work here, but it is a good system to be able to take those things and just click and drag. And I think because console is a thought from the beginning, that's exactly why they utilized the same menu and the same controls for those things as well, so they didn't have to redesign everything from the ground up for consoles. As you know, there was a lot of work already to simplify a lot of things for console and to be able to see those buttons being pressed. Honestly, I could never play a game like this. This is just me personally, could never play it on console. One, using a joystick to move a cursor around just takes forever. I feel like if you were to give me an hour to do something quick and an hour to do it on PC and on console I could maybe place 50 things, and on console I might be on PC could do 500 if we're talking about PC versus console. So but they did show a little bit of that timestamp I was mentioning too, and that's another thing, is that the mouse and keyboard, for me personally, it's just easier to drag those things to whatever section of the sequencer that you want to put it. It's just going to be easier to click and drag and to place things and to just make it play and work. But I know people like it on console. I'm not against that. It's just not for me, and I know that like on console as well, there's a little bit more restriction into how many parts and pieces you can have, and that's not a slight by any means to Planet Coaster 2 at all, or the original game that's also on consoles, because they're limited by the consoles. There's only so much memory and so much space on the system in order to basically save a park, and so you're limited that way, and that is completely fine and understandable by me. We've done reviews of Planet Coaster Console Edition before, and that was pretty much the kind of the consensus, is that things take a lot longer to do, but you'll hit the limit of that about the same time because they take longer to do and there's a little less memory. So it certainly feels like a console edition, and I expect that that's what we will see for Planet Coaster 2, is that no matter how many times you play Planet Coaster 2, once you compare it to console, you'll be able to feel the difference instantaneously. Although it will look and play the same in terms of its basic concepts, the controls for it and the limitations for the player will be visible soon enough, especially if you're really detailed. I mean, if you're looking to get the ultimate experience, it is a no-brainer that you should get this game on PC rather than console. So keep that in mind, that I just truly think the most diverse experience that you can have is this game, but on PC. It's truly just the best way to do it. But yeah, it looks good with the animation. Still a little cartoony, honestly, and that fish there is, I think, supposed to be kind of a little more gelatinous. It's a deep sea, like, angler fish, so that's cool. But it will be interesting to see, like, dinosaurs and what other animatronics they have in the game, and other ways that we can customize things, like the, what is that, the coral reef behind it. The fish there having like a little coral reef behind it, and I hope that we can actually do what we can do in Planet Zoo, where you can make small little displays like that and adjust what types of plants are visible on that. And then you can place 3 or 4 of the pre-existing ones, change them up a little bit, and then save them to blueprints. Honestly, I'm somebody who never really liked to do the blueprints before, but as I've been mentioning through this video, with all the gameplay that I've had for all of the Planet Coaster games, and, well, the Planet games, I think I've gotten a lot more caring about how areas look, because now I know how to do it, at least to my standards, to where I'm happy when I look at it, and that's exactly how it should be played. Now they're about to show off the scenery tool and how you can, click and drag and create a random multitude of plants, which is really cool. Bob Ross mode, or Rob Boss mode. You can be the boss of placing those plants. A happy little bush here, a happy little bush there. Everybody's happy. It's good stuff. Now, something to remember, too, is that you can always go back in and delete the plants afterwards. So if you paint an area and then just need to adjust a few plants, that's easy. It's easier said than done, really. Or either easier done than said. Yeah, actually, that's the case for it, because there's so much you can put down and then layer into that area. So you can put down your trees and bushes and plants, and then go back through and do the same with rocks and maybe adjust the height a little bit. And paint the ground, too. Don't forget that you also, in this game, are able to paint different types of sand. Rough sand, coarse sand, grass, rock, maybe even lava. There's going to be some playful things that you can certainly put down too in the game that'll be fun. You know, you can make like a replica of like a castle from Mario, put lava around it. That's what somebody's probably going to create as Nintendo World. You know, all the parks that exist can definitely be recreated. And people have done that before. Now, they're also going to be showing something I mentioned too, and something that I've had a lot of fun experiencing, is adjusting the size of different plants and adjusting the, obviously the thing from before is adjusting the X and Y and Z axis for all these things, and being able to lift them up and down and put them below the ground's surface, like the surface of the ground. Actually, a really good tactic to be able to make things look a little different each time. So really well done. You know what I didn't see though? So many people in the pool. Man, there is an incredible amount of people in that pool. I wonder too if the temperature of the day will affect how many people will be going into the pool when they're at the park. You know, you might have a ton of people in your park and then suddenly the temperature go up and everyone wants to dive in to cool off. That's an insane amount of people. I feel like you're going to need a lot of lifeguards for that. That's going to be really crazy. All right, well, there's our animatronic fish. And what exactly is it doing? Nothing? Just dancing. Okay. I thought it could maybe spray some water. It'd be cool if there were some other special effects that we could get for that. But, and yeah, huge amounts of people coming through. Now, another thing that they've definitely improved upon is the AI pathfinding, to where the AI doesn't really necessarily move in these blobs anymore that bounce off of each other. They certainly will, and they certainly do that, but they try to not do that and really avoid each other and take advantage of the open space, which is why the public squares are very advantageous. Like, it's going to be a great thing to be able to make a large amount of space and then allow people to go sit down or go up to the food courts or go through to a ride or something like that. All right, they're getting started on placing down another coaster. It's hard to tell how many coasters are here. Pretty much from what I could tell, everything from the original game is here in terms of coasters, at least the main types. But I don't know about all the scenery and such for some of them, like the theming of them. They may have lost the licenses to some of those things, like, for example, I don't know, the Superman ride. Not sure if that was in there, but I'm just saying, rides that they had in from before with classic parks like Six Flags, and also with things like they had the Ghostbusters roller coaster and some things from other things from Universal. Yeah, they may have lost some of that theming, so the coaster types may still be here, maybe called something else, and they don't have those themes anymore. But it was hard to tell. It was hard to go through everything and to chat with everybody about what they were able to see too. It really, with everybody who was able to play, there was so much there for all of the theming and the scenery that we are not exactly sure yet of all the things that are available for the coasters. But I do think that some of the theming that's available for the coasters can also be brought to the thrill rides as well. So there are some things that are more beneficial for a coaster to have, but you can certainly put on the thrill ride too. Things like making tunnels and having like tunnel entrance pieces and that type of thing. But you can always do what most people do, is cover it up with rocks and debris and like wood from a mine shaft or something like that. But always nice to have the clean looking thing that could also be put on paths, like a concrete entrance or something along those lines. Now, they spend a brief amount of time building a coaster, and so did most people who played the demos, is because it's so easy to make a coaster, but to make a good coaster in Planet Coaster 2 is just as difficult as 1. It takes a while. You got to get used to it. You got to play around, toy around with things to balance the excitement, the fear, and the nausea. And I think continuously the most difficult thing is fear. You know, you're trying to make a cool looking coaster that you can be proud of, but it's very difficult because then people get a little either easily bored or easily scared. Build a section that's straight for too long, not interested. Build a curve that's right after another curve, they're way too afraid to ride it, and that affects the excitement score. So if you can iron those things out, it doesn't take too long going back and forth a few times. It's not impossible, it's just it takes a little bit more time than in other coaster games that we played or other theme park simulators. So, but yeah, that certainly looks like a good ride there. And again, when you're trying to make a coaster in this game, making small, compact ones is really what I think the developers want everyone to try to do. They give you these large well, medium-sized open areas where you could tuck a coaster into and then kind of blend it in with all the theming and scenery, or throw a fence around it and try to keep it themed to something like maybe Jurassic Park, something like that. And so you got options, but I feel like whenever anybody plays the the regular vanilla mode, where it's just a completely blank map, sometimes it's really hard to try to leave enough space for a coaster. Here's probably a good amount of space, and that's something that I think I'm going to have to work on myself, is leaving enough space for the decorations, and then maybe some other thrill rides nearby. But with Planet Coaster 2, and like with Planet Coaster 1, it is very important still to make sure that people don't have to walk too far before they have a point in which they can interact with to spend their money. You don't want them to walk too far from a coaster before they hit the food court or more thrill rides and other things like that. But another thing we didn't see is still we don't have any sort of midway, none of the games of chance, which may possibly be an ESRB rating board decision where games of chance could be considered gambling, although technically they're not. But you give somebody $1 and then you get to shoot the star, for example, with the gun, or throw a baseball at the milk jugs, that kind of thing, the milk bottles. And those are some real classics that I think could have also come into this game. I had forgotten to mention that too, because there's so much here that's new. There's a few things that I still want to see. We still have the restaurants here. We still have the ability to build giant hotels and decorate them. And it still goes along the lines of, you build the small little entrance and then a few attachment blocks, and you don't really get to build a functional building. So, yeah, I'm thinking about it now, if I want that or not. To be able to build a fully functional hotel with like a lobby, a dining area, people serving drinks, and building each of the hotel rooms would be very tedious and time consuming, but also very satisfying. If we could have an option to build a lobby that then would maybe give the hotel a particular number of stars, that would be cool. But on second thought, that would certainly become more of a hotel builder as well. But that also is part of the experience. If you're giving people the opportunity to stay at a hotel at your park, and if you did something along the lines of having a train station within the hotel, or a metro station or something like on the above the lobby where everyone could see it, like a monorail where it's a display of the grandeur of the park, that would be cool. Like, that would certainly be something that would be a cool thing to see, but it would mostly be on the side of the players, being like, oh wow, this person did that, that's really cool, other than it just giving you bonuses to the hotel, which would then provide bonuses to the park. In other words, there's not really an incentive to build something other than like a couple of squares on the ground and then being able to decorate around it. I don't think anybody so far has built any sort of hotels that were at least more than just putting a block down and seeing how it functions and what the options are. When you're only given a few hours to play a game like this, you got to fly through all the menus, and you really don't get to build anything that you really truly want to. Luckily, the developers here had already set up a park, which could be a campaign park to expand upon, and that's another great way to learn in Planet Coaster and Planet Coaster 2 and in Planet Zoo, is pre-existing structures that you can then, or parks that you can then add on to and kind of learn how to blend. And blending is a very important thing in these games. That's why the customization is like one of the most important things, as well as all the different plants and building rocks, using that painting tool to blend in areas that have grass with dirt, and then painting that as well. You're really trying to just kind of almost trick yourself into thinking that it's something that organically sprung up and wasn't built like how it is in the game, but built over many years of design and saving and investment and time consumption to make things right and upgrade and upkeep and do maintenance on areas of the park and rebuilding paths and things like that. So, but it's always satisfying to go back and rebuild a section of your park, especially when you unlock new tech through research. That's another major part of the campaign, and I think it's probably one of the best things of these types of games, where you don't get everything available at the start. You have to kind of figure it out as you go and try to make ends meet and maintain a budget. But there's always the unlimited money modes, and there's always the scenarios where you can modify that, put it on easy, medium, or hard, and play things to your liking. And that is the most important thing. Let's talk a little bit more, finally, about, well, our end section of Planet Coaster 2. Coming fall 2024, we'll see. We'll see. Well, here we are at the end game. Would I recommend Roller Coaster Tycoon? Would I recommend Parkitect? Would I recommend Planet Coaster? Yes, all those games are good. Do I recommend Planet Coaster 2 in comparison to all of those games? Is this a step forward for the genre? Is this going to be a good game? My thoughts are yes. I think there's way more things to love here than to be worried about. From what I've been seeing from the community, a lot of people are just purely excited and aren't really necessarily saying some things that I thought they would about it just being an expansion upon one, which it totally is because it's 2, right? It doesn't feel like a DLC entirely, and it doesn't feel like a update entirely. It certainly is a brand new game. And for those of you on the fence, I would certainly really have you search for options to play it at a discount, maybe after release, and maybe get it on a sale, or definitely get it on Game Pass if it happens to come to Game Pass. I haven't heard news on that, but you know, it certainly is a game that if you've played Planet Coaster 1, I think you'll enjoy Planet Coaster 2. If you've never played a Planet Coaster game before and only have played Planet Zoo, then I think this would be just as exciting for you. There's more to love here than there is to criticize. There's a lot of well thought out systems here that worked in 1 that they're bringing to 2, and then they've also brought a lot more into the toolbox for you to even more with like the controls of building paths and to be able to build large plazas and to be able to build coasters and water slides. There's a lot more simplicity, and things have just been improved. It was so good though for the first game that they really didn't have to make so many changes, and that's probably a good thing. So I think if you try this game, you're going to like it. If you buy this game, I think you're going to like it. And I think that there's so much here that if you are going to get a game like this, it will certainly be on the higher end price-wise for it being a new release, a highly anticipated sequel. But there is a lot here in terms of the campaigns, the sandbox mode, and then also challenge modes too, and then undoubtedly the Steam Workshop. There's going to be so much stuff, or at least the in-game workshop. So many custom things that people will make, so many cool things to check out and get ideas from, and that is exactly what this game is all about, is the ability to learn from everyone else and have everybody share ideas. There's going to be tutorials all over YouTube. There's going to be people coming up with cool and crazy ideas that you've never seen, and then people just making death coasters too. Those will be gone within the first 2 weeks. After that, no one will be doing that anymore. And people will want to build beautiful things. People will want to make gorgeous and expansive parks that then have all these different themes of like, oh, this is Africa. We're building like Lake Victoria or something like that. We're building a beautiful themed park that almost reminds you of like Planet Zoo, but being like an oasis park or a pirate park, and put in all the themes for that. I mean, that's just got to come to the game no matter what. I mean, it would be missing if it didn't. So all the basic pieces are here. A lot of things are improved. Some things are unchanged. I think for the most part, in the time that everybody's played, yeah, I'm hearing nothing but good things. And interesting that they're playing on consoles still with this one. But I think I really need to have a lot more time with this game to give a full assessment. So it's just a couple hours. Really, it's not enough time. That is the common theme. I will continue to repeat that. It is very important for everyone to know that when we're given 2 or 3 hours to play essentially like a demo of the game and then report back to everyone, we can say, yeah, it was cool, I liked it, there was no major things, within 2 or 3 hours, which is an easy thing to say, right? Like, give somebody a car for 2 or 3 hours to drive around. You might not notice some of the problems with it immediately, but then in months down the road, you might end up starting to find that things are a little bit more, not as they seem. But immediately, first glance, this game, great. Can't wait to play it. Looking forward to showcasing all of the different things for everyone and being able to show more gameplay too. Yeah, I think this time-lapse mode here is probably one of the best things in the game that they've showcased so far. So yeah, look at how quick and easy that is to do. That's going to be one of the best things, is how easy it is to make like little thrill rides. So instead of it just all being about the coasters, we have more focus on thrill rides and other things. I love it. All right, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much for watching our video on Planet Coaster 2, and hope to see you soon. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.